Be honest, when someone asks what you're doing this weekend, do you feel a tiny flash of panic? Not because you have no plans, but because you do, and the plan is home, and you already know how that answer will land. If a canceled plan feels like a gift, this isn't a habit, it's a wiring pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee why home feels like the only place you come back to yourself. If you'd rather protect an empty Saturday than collect another story you'll be expected to perform later, you're in the right place. This is not about people who stay in because nobody asked. This is about the ones who were asked, who are wanted, and who still feel their whole body say no, not out of spite, not out of fear, but out of a kind of accuracy. Something in them goes dim in public and comes back the second the door closes. We have unkind names for that: boring, flaky, antisocial, wasting your life, as if a life only counts when someone else can verify it. But the psychology of people who love staying home is more specific than introversion, and it is a lot less childish than it looks. Here's the thing: leaving the house is never just leaving the house. The second you are perceptible, your brain clocks in for a second shift. How does my face look? Is this the right amount of enthusiasm? Did I talk too long? Am I being weird in this silence? Are they tired of me? Should I laugh now? Social psychologists call this impression management, the ongoing work of regulating how you come across. Everyone does some of it. People who love staying home do it at a higher volume, for longer, with less recovery in between. For some people, the public self and the private self are nearly the same clothes. They walk out the door and they are still themselves, just standing up. For you, those two selves are not neighbors. Outside, you are translating. You are fluent, even charming sometimes. But fluency is expensive. It is not rest. It is skilled labor that other people mistake for your personality. Home is not where you go to avoid being a person. Home is where you get to stop being a version. And that stop does something measurable. In the 1980s, Rachel and Stephen Kaplan developed attention restoration theory. The short version is this: the attention you use to track people, choices, noise, timing, and social rules is a limited resource. It fatigues. It does not refill because the night was fun. It refills in environments that ask almost nothing of you. Familiar walls, a kettle you could work in the dark, no new faces to decode. That is why a night where nothing happens can leave you more intact than a night full of stories. Something did happen. Your mind came back to you. People who love being out look at that and see a lack of appetite. They think you don't want life. What they cannot see is that you want your attention back. You want the part of you that can think a thought all the way to the end. There's a second body of work that rarely gets mentioned in these conversations. Researchers who study solitude, not loneliness, solitude, treat it as its own motive. Christopher Long and James Averill described solitude as a state that can deepen self-understanding and help people regulate emotion, not merely a waiting room between social plans. This is not a shortage of friends. This is a nervous system choosing the condition in which it can hear itself. And let's be honest, we built a culture that only counts the hours a camera would understand. But there's more. The drain often starts hours before anyone arrives. The event is at 8. Your system starts paying at 2. What will I wear? How long will this last? Who else will be there? How will I leave without making it a thing? By the time you show up, you have already spent the night. People who love staying home are often not avoiding the dinner. They are avoiding the tax that comes attached to the dinner. Then there is the room itself. Environmental psychologists talk about place attachment, the way a location becomes part of how you regulate. Your home is not just shelter. Your nervous system has mapped it. That is not sentimentality. That is a body recognizing a habitat that finally agrees with it. Out there, you are always a guest in someone else's design. Just come out for a little while is never a little while. It is a full context switch into an environment that does not fit. Here's what nobody tells you. A lot of the people who take your no personally are not freer than you. They need the outside world to keep them in focus. If the night is quiet, they get restless. If nobody sees them, they start to feel thin. Your love of home looks like absence to them because their self is assembled in public. That does not make them fake. It makes you different. And that difference has a shape. People who genuinely love being home often have a kind of inner continuity other people only get on vacation. They can stay with a feeling without turning it into a performance. They remember the thing you said in March because they had enough quiet to keep it. They are careful with their yes, which means their yes actually weighs something. In a culture that treats being exhausted and available as a personality, that care looks like rejection. It isn't. It's math. They also tend to love people in a more concentrated way. They will not give you every Friday. They will give you the night they have, all the way. Then they will vanish back into the rooms that do not require a witness. It does not look like constant access. It looks like presence when they are actually there. Now, we have to talk about the version of this that is not a preference. Sometimes the door starts as a comfort and becomes a sentence. The invitations fade because you trained the world to stop offering. Depression can borrow the language of "I just like my own space" until your life is the size of a hallway. Anxiety can call a shrinking map knowing yourself. So the honest question is not, do you like staying home? When you close that door, do you get bigger or smaller? Does the night return you to yourself, or does it slowly delete the parts of you that need weather and other voices and a reason to be brave? One of those is a habitat. The other is a vanishing. If leaving has become impossible, this is not your personality being validated. This is a signal. But if you can leave, and you still choose home more than the culture is comfortable with, you are not failing some adult exam. You can love people and still feel your whole system unclench when they go. Loyal and hard to reach, curious about the world, and unwilling to rent your nervous system out by the hour. Maybe that's the whole psychology. People who love staying home are not refusing life. They are refusing to stay translated. Everywhere else they are slightly louder than they are, slightly more arranged. Home is the only place the original language still works, the unmarked self, the one that does not have to earn the right to take up a room. They don't stay in because the world is empty. They stay in because they are finally full enough to hear themselves. If this named something you've been defending for years, subscribe. I make these for the people who were told their way of living was a delay. It isn't. If you want to support this work, hit join and become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate it. Tell me the truth. Is home where you recover, or the only place you've ever felt like the right size? The next video is going to get closer than this.